having trouble with internet or something, but it just keeps spinning. I can see it. Anyway, hopefully she'll get in there if you want. I don't know if you want to text her, or see if we can help her out. Thanks for joining us, guys. This is a class that we've not done before, so we kind of we talk about communication and how important it is in our business and how much of a difference it can make. And then we started, we always get a chance to, I get a chance to witness people who are really, really good at it in situations all the time. And I can see the difference it makes for them. So we came up with the idea of having a class on what the best effective, efficient communication methods are. We feel it fits really well with our mission as well. Caitlin, if you want to move us on one, that would be great. In our mission statement, we say lots of things. So we, under the grow section, we say ever increasing agent production. We say developing a company full of leaders. We say demonstrating professionalism in everything we do. Under the Thrive section, we talk about atypical service. We talk about creating win-win or no deals. Under the Inspire section, we talk about leading by example and seeking first to understand. And all of these things relate so well to how we communicate with clients, with other agents.
Do I unmute?
The best, the best agents and admin that are the best at communication, they make it an art. They, because it calls for calculation of, who you're dealing with and what the circumstances involved are. A lot of times it calls for extra effort and just going to another step, not taking the easy route. Sometimes it calls for time consideration. Sometimes you actually want to choose to pause, hit the pause button before you communicate. And sometimes it causes really, it causes the need for really decisive and direct action. So as we went through this, we think today more than ever, sharpening up on the ways in which we communicate and how we can do it differently will help us make a big difference in our businesses. So we just thought it was really neat how it fell right in line with our mission statement. We've got a lot of people on here today that are really good at it, and we want to encourage interaction and sharing in how we do it when we get into different situations. But in order to lay it out and to be cognizant of what difference that makes, and you can give me the next slide. We think that being aware of how you communicate and when you communicate, what ways, it creates better relationships. Better relationships mean that people will give you better reviews and referrals. Susan was in a meeting. Susan was one of the agents I was talking with about doing this class, because I think she does a great job of it. And if anybody ever looks Susan up on Zillow, you'll know what I mean. She's got a world of reviews. And we were in the meeting the other day, and she was talking about a lead that she had. And I said, well, how'd you get that lead? And she said, the person just Googled top real estate agents at the lake, and because of my reviews, I came up. And I think, that's directly related to how she communicates. She does it intentionally, and I think it actually benefits her business. It causes for smoother transactions when we're clearer about our communication. Helps us hold deal together, generates business, allows us to handle our stress load a little better, so less stress. When everyone has a clear understanding of what's going on and doesn't have the ability to allow their own perception to enter the arena, it makes it better for all of us. So that is some of the things that we think will come from this class. for all of you. So we want to start with sellers. So on this sheet is some things that we wanted to talk about with respect to sellers. And I want to encourage everyone to jump in as we talk about different ideas. And I might even call on you. I see that Lori's on here and Jane's on here and Danae's on here. And so if I ask your opinion, don't hesitate to give it or ask a question. First of all, with sellers, outlining the method of communication in the initial meeting, I think is super important. And what I mean by that is talk to them about what they prefer. How do you guys prefer to communicate? Some are going to say text. Some are going to say, please don't text me. Some are going to be okay with email. Some are going to, they're going to look at you for how they want. But I think asking the question is going to help differentiate yourself and allow you to set up a method in which you're going to have something agreed to. We have a listing right now that we talk with them once a month, and it's the first Monday of every month. We have a time, and I know that it's a commercial listing. We have not generated hardly any activity on it. Sometimes we go a month and literally have nothing to, very little to talk about. But the fact that we talk to them every month has held that listing together through a couple different renewal periods already. So I think that that's a real easy way to start off the right type of communication in an initial meeting. Anybody want to comment on that or have anything to say about that?
Jeff, I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
When you do have a listing, what is the best practice as far as communicating? Right now, the listing I've got, I communicate with them once a week as to who's visiting the website, how many showings we've had, and I'll communicate after every showing as well. But is that too often, not often enough?
Great question, Ron.
I don't think there's I think it depends on who your sellers are. And it also depends on how you set it up. I don't think there's a specific right or wrong, and I'm open to anybody else's opinion as well, but I think it is the lack of setup that causes the problem. When you walk away from a meeting without any setup, I mean, when I carried a lot of listings, I would tell them, that we're a team, and here's what's going to happen. Every Monday morning, you're going to get a report that's generated automatically, and it's going to talk about your competition. It's going to talk about the internet activity. And I want you to call me if you have any questions about any of the other listings that have popped up. So I kind of put it on them so that I did not have to communicate with all of them, because when your listing inventory grows, it becomes a little harder. So I think if you set it up, it's just dependent upon how you set it up. I know a lot of when I talk to Jason, he sends out videos specific to the seller, but he does it, he does it via video update. So he's not talking to them. It doesn't take him a half an hour, but it's communication. And he sets that up in the meeting. Does that make sense?
It
Yes.
does, yeah.
Okay.
Jeff, real quick,
Yep.
Lori raised her hand, so.
Oh, cool. Let's hear it, Lori.
I just wanted to mention the activity that happens behind the scenes with regards to our situation and our team. Jane is very good, as are our agents, in letting the client know, who is on the team, who will be communicating with you as well, not just the agent, because it's not always the agent who communicates with the seller. They're great about introducing who we are and what our role will be. And that puts the seller at ease. They're not taking a phone call from somebody they have no idea who that is. To me, that's extremely important.
It's huge. The number one complaint on sellers surveyed, and this has been for years and years and years, is a lack of communication.
Mhm.
So what happens is everything is great in the beginning, but a agent doesn't communicate, and then they leave. The agent can be working their butt off, but the seller has no idea what's going on. They just know that there's no activity. And if the agent continues not to communicate, all of a sudden the lack of activity, the lack of communication turns a great relationship into a bad relationship. And it happens so inadvertently by accident, it's a real shame. Because Brian Buffini talks about this, I think it's something that we forget too. During the period of the listing is when a seller will generate more referrals than any other time. They will generate more referrals because they're in process than any other time. Because think about it, you know, when you're looking to buy a Prius, what do you see on the road? Priuses. They're all over.
Right.
Well, when you're a seller and you're thinking and you're actually in process selling your home, all of a sudden you talk to a lot of other people that are thinking about selling their home, that are selling their home. And that is a really important thing to mention, Lori, because I think that we have sometimes we get in a habit, maybe we're hurried or whatnot, and we don't cover everything that happens behind the scenes. And it's really important. Kind of a hot button you need to pay attention to, you know. No activity. Covering what happens early on, like in the first meeting, what happens when there's no activity? What does that mean if we put it out there and we're not getting activity? You know, everybody wants to talk about the activity that we're generating, but what really causes the problem when you don't get activity and they don't know why. They don't understand why. So that is something very important to communicate. Multiple offers. If you don't communicate, if you're there and you know that they're gonna land in a property, a type of property or a price point that's going to be really hot, and you fail to talk about what that looks like and how buyers have been working with their agents for a long period of time, and this is a great opportunity for us, and cover what happens with multiple offers prior, it can backfire and it can cause people to think you're not worth you didn't put a lot of effort into it, you don't deserve the same commission because I got so much activity right off the gate. So that is a hot button. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions around how to handle that? If an offer comes in right away, or if an offer or we know they're going to go into multiple offers. It's something that we thought was really worthwhile covering, because by the time, if it's not covered in the initial meeting, by the time it comes up, it's really hard to backpedal enough for them to understand. So you just need to explain to them how, and that comes on the same heels as the pricing. But we talked about it with respect to effective communication, because it takes effort to take the time and to be intentional enough to cover that topic early on. Price reductions are something that is easily avoided. I wanted to talk about that. You know, I had a great agent for a long time that was with our team, that he used to talk. It was Sam, and he used to say, I know you know the problem with this listing and why it's not selling. What's the problem? Come on, tell me the problem. And I'd say, I don't know. And he'd say, yeah, you do. It's price. And I'd say, you're right. It is price. Agents tend to, we love our clients often, and maybe we've sold them the property before. And if we do have a property that is not generating activity, sometimes we don't want to admit that it is priced. And even if we know that it's priced, we might not want to talk to the sellers about the fact that it's priced. So one exercise that we used with our team, and probably need to use more often with those properties, is putting that in letter form and utilizing some ideas about about our team review of price opinions, the lack of activity, and then putting it actually in a letter to the client so that once that, an email or letter is sent out, you can't pull it back. You're going to have that conversation. Because if you're anything like me and you intend to have that conversation, when you pick up the phone, all of a sudden I get warm and fuzzy and I don't cover the topics I really needed to cover that are really in their best interest to get to the right deal. So a good exercise that we use with respect to communicating the correct information with price reductions or the need to reduce the price was to put it in a written format. Anybody else do anything like that? Or questions around that? Does that make sense?
Yep.
In that letter, when you do that, you can identify time of year. You can identify price points. You can take the time to put something that will substantiate the reasoning, like agent feedback, like the lack of showings from a seller's report. If you pull our seller's report from the company, the showings report, I'm sorry, I said seller's report. If you pull the showings report and you can show the lack of activity in the whole company's, based on a price point, that can help you. But it's one of those things that probably needs to be addressed more often when it's needed. And it's something that we do see, when you have an agent that stands out with respect to the way they handle their listings. That's one of the things that they do really well. And that is discuss the need to adjust your price or adjust where you're at within the market. Inspection notice negotiations. I know this is a really fun one right now. And you talk about one that requires great communication. It's, none of these happen only at the time, a price reduction doesn't happen just at the time you discover the listing needs a price reduction. It happens the first time you're talking to the sellers about what happens when we don't receive activity. It might call for a price reduction. So you're setting a stage. The same with inspection notices today. And everybody has a different way that they address it. And I would love to hear some feedback on this. But inspections, it's no surprise that it's going to be, when you negotiate the price, that's not the only time you're negotiating. So we need to be conditioning our sellers as well as our buyers, and we'll talk about it when we get to buyers too, on the fact that we're going to negotiate a couple times during this deal. And how important that second negotiation is. In this kind of market, I think we see more fallout due to inspection notices and how the buyer feels and how the seller handles it than possibly anything else. It's where many contracts fall apart, and I think it's due mostly to the fact that our sellers have too much control, and they become they put themselves in a position, or maybe the agent puts themselves in a position where it's just not a friendly interaction anymore, or nobody feels the fact that everybody wants to win something. And if everybody, if a buyer feels like they're losing at the beginning and now they're losing during inspection, it can be a detriment to our seller as well if it's not set up right. Lori, any thoughts on that? Or Jane, any thoughts on that? Or anybody about how you might handle the specifics of how you talk with sellers about that? Any tips?
Again, it goes back to how the conversations that you have in the beginning. It's your lead-in. It's giving the client, the seller, information ahead of time. So it doesn't, like you said, the price reduction, the inspections don't come right then. As long as they know ahead of time that this is the way the process is going to happen or likely going to happen, it just puts the client at ease. It's less stress for everyone if this doesn't come as a shock to them. People are just looking for information. Sometimes we become so used to this and we assume everybody knows everything about the real estate industry or the process as we do. They don't. We have to assume that they do not, because most of the time they don't. They're just looking to us for guidance and that information.
I love that, Lori. I completely agree with you. One of the things that I have picked up in my years here, and I'm not even an agent, but one thing that I loved going through a home buying process myself and, you know, working with agents was when like James Wood did that presentation and he made that video of like what to expect when you're a seller and what to expect for a buyer. I mean, you can get creative, but still get the information out there as well to where it's more convenient for your clients too. They can watch it in their own time.
Right, exactly. It's not new information. We're just guiding them through that process, which is what we should be doing.
Right.
I feel like you said something, you said a word that jumps out at me, and that's shock. So I feel like during the inspection notice, there's a lot of opportunity for people to perceive things wrong. A buyer to perceive, or a seller to perceive something wrong that a buyer doesn't mean to be perceived quite the same, I think we have a lot of ability through the methods in which we communicate at those times to remove emotion, to calm the situation down, you know, to say things like, guys, don't be offended. You know, oftentimes people are just trying. Where they start, you know, they might start with a big list, but they're not going to end with a big list. So rather than just forwarding on a inspection notice to a seller to let them create their own perception about that list or that inspection notice, preface it with a call to explain it before it comes, and not a text, hey, I'm sending over the inspection notice. I mean, because you are opening yourself up to them, you know, the two of them talking. I mean, God forbid you do it in the evening and they've had a couple glasses of wine. I mean, you are seriously allowing it to be on their level if you're not involved with that in a way that you can combat you know, one thing, I love text. I love the convenience of text, but you can't anticipate a person's tone of voice. You can't respond to something quickly. I mean, you know, if you're in a call and you're talking to someone while they open that up, you can say, and they say, what do these people think they're doing? I mean, how could they possibly be asking? You can say, no, don't get too worked up now. You know, and you could bring the situation back down. Or you can say things like, that's normal that they ask a lot the first time. You know what I mean? You have an opportunity. You know, I would extend that to the point that, you know, and I think I might have this on another slide. I don't know, but I have seen several times recently, agents within the team here will receive an email, and the email is a contract without a call. Yep. Without an explanation or any backup to what that means or what kind of offer that is or what have you. I know that just here the last couple of days ago, we had an agent that lost out on multiple offer. And you know why he lost out on the multiple offer? Because the other agent didn't even tell him it was a multiple offer. And you know, obviously we don't have control over that on our end, but I don't know how much money that agent left on the table for the seller. It's crazy. So it's very important that we're very involved, and we're involved in a way, like Lori said, that we have prefaced it ahead of time early on, so that we can, you know, help out however we can. Anything else about inspection notice? Questions? Thoughts?
Jeff, one of the things I do on the inspection when I'm giving it to my sellers and talking to them about it is a lot of times agents will literally list out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, however far it goes. But often there are several electrical issues that all group together, several plumbing issues that all group together. Things that group together, I try to point out, okay, yes, they want the GFCIs, they want this electrical problem, they want this, but that's one visit by one electrician. We can group all that together. The cost doesn't change, but we're not looking at getting several different people in here to fix it. It's actually one thing. The toilet and the toilet's loose and the sink is, leaking in the kitchen. Well, that's one person that can take care of both of them. So I think sometimes it's actually looking at the list and saying, okay, what can I group together here so that it doesn't look like it's so overwhelming?
I love that.
Back
I
to
saw that.
Danae, back to what Lori said about the fact that they might just not, they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
I mean, if you didn't communicate that to them, they would never even think about that and be overwhelmed by the overall list.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is communicating the fact that some people don't need it fixed and don't want it fixed. They just want an adjustment. They just want a monetary adjustment, and that can get us out of the whole deal. I notice, we see a lot of successful negotiations through inspection notice from that standpoint too. And then, where you're just coming up with a reasonable number to repair what needs to be repaired, or enough to suffice the buyer. And then you don't have to do any of it. You just give a credit towards it. Do you use that? Do you guys use that a lot? I've seen it quite a bit. What do you got on the chat?
Oh, Lisa just made a really great point. She said, great point, so it's not overwhelming is exactly right. They panic.
They do. Lately, we've had some seller wants to cancel contract, and that has, over the years, we've seen that happen a lot for differing reasons. Sometimes it's seller's remorse. Sometimes it's an issue with one of the sellers that might be causing them trouble. Sometimes they think they could possibly get more money. Whenever something serious like that happens, we've got a couple going on right now, and that's one of those times that it calls for really, really calculated communication, and sometimes very direct, decisive communication. In the most important times, we want to follow everything up that we communicate with in writing. And I told Jane, she's on here, I told her a secret that I've been stashing away some of the letters that I've been involved with that I've seen from her over the years. And I love going back and researching. So if nothing more, if you find yourself in that situation, just know that there are resources out there. You can call and we can brainstorm about it. Sometimes we can talk people off the ledge, but it takes a real, a real clear communicator, and sometimes it takes brainstorming and effort when you get into that. I go way back. We had an attorney. I mean, the weirdest things will cause this. We had a attorney that had a home, a lake home. And Danae, I wish Mark was on here because I'd ask him to talk about it. It was his client. And this guy literally 3/4 of the way through the deal decided he wasn't going to sell. And it was because his son said, Mom and Dad, I don't want you to sell that home. I just can't believe you're selling. I don't want you to do it. And he tried to get out of the deal. I'm going to cancel the contract. And if Mark was here, he would tell you that we sweated for a little bit, but we had a couple really, we sent a very clear email, a direct email, and long story short, he stayed with his deal and bought another place. So they don't all turn out that great, but those things do come up. And what we want to do in those situations is we want to go towards that. We want to not shy away from it. We want to talk about it right away. We want to brainstorm about ideas to talk about it. We just want to run towards it, not away from it. So I don't know if anybody has anything else to share with respect to that, but if not, we can move right on to buyers. We're doing pretty good. We got time yet. So this is super basic, but it's something that is right in line with what we're talking about today and how communication can make huge differences in all of our in all of our businesses. And it starts with the right away. You can train your buyers to be loyal, first of all. But it's back to what Lori and Danae said. People don't know what we know. They don't know that we can represent any listing that's out there. And sometimes when you're in the business, you know, ages and ages like I have been, I just forget to tell them. So you can build a pipeline of buyers, and you can train those buyers to be loyal to you by communicating. First of all, represent a give before you get mentality. So from day one, give them information. Demonstrate that you're going to be different. Show them that you're going to act like you're already representing them when you're not, and demonstrate that by showing them items of value. Give them information on volunteer information on the market, volunteer information on how you can help them with things that any other company has listed, how you can eliminate the confusion of them calling any other agent. Represent that right out of the gate. I was so excited. Lisa had a call last week. Lisa, will you talk? Are you there? Did you bail out on me? Where are you?
No, I'm here. I've just been processing a few
There
things.
you are. I was looking through the damn. Tell everybody what happened, would you please?
I had a sign call that came in for Susan's listing on Ambassador, and it's under contract. So I just said, hey, you're out in your boat. You're looking at signs. Here's my cell phone number. I said, I'll text you my cell phone number. And I also text a picture of my business card and said, if you see any signs, you want any information, just give me a call, text me, whatever's convenient, so you don't have to go and call on all these different signs. And let's see, we looked at the property on Friday. That happened Thursday, happened Friday, and we got under contract $700,000 listing deal put together on Saturday evening.
That's awesome, Lisa.
It was incredible. I was so excited, but here's the deal. You were intentional about it. You had a great conversation with them. You were quick to respond. You know, that there's no replacing the speed. But then we have to think about training the clients, and that's all done through our communication. Our window is only open for that long. We have to talk about how they, why they want to work with you, and how you can make the process simple and better.
Lisa, I like how you said that you took a picture of your business card, which I'm sure is still within your gallery on your phone. And I think that every agent should have a picture of their business card. It makes for a quick, fast send to anyone. So that's a really great idea.
Yeah, and you can incorporate that into your conversation. You can literally do it almost while you're talking to them. Hey, I want to put a face with a name. I want you guys to see me, and I want you to think about me when you see other signs on properties to call. And we want to make sure everything is done in a manner of what's in it for them. We never want to come across braggadocious or I'm this or I'm that. You want to do it in a way of how you represent and how you work with your buyers. You can talk to them about how that if they're going to open houses, how you can help them with open houses, and that way they have somebody representing their best interest. They're not walking into an open house where they're dealing with a listing agent that is all about that seller's best interest. It's just very important that we make sure that we're communicating all that little stuff in the beginning, so that we're training our buyers to be loyal. And I think that your story is it was just awesome to see that.
Lori raised her hand again. Go ahead, Lori.
Cool, Lori.
Just one thing I did want to mention. Jane taught me this years ago, and with regards to when a buyer or a lead calls in, typically it's admin who will take that initial call, boat call, sign call, whatever. Jane taught us the importance of, from that very first phone call, to be excited. Be excited about whatever listing it is that they're calling on. Even though, as we know as admin, we don't typically see these houses, at least not early on. But you can still, oh, great, that's a great listing. Be excited. Start the tone of that phone call from the very first time they communicate with your office. So to me,
Lori,
that's
I'll
extremely-
piggyback that too. Like with them walking in also, like if you have somebody walking in, you know, and make sure your admin is involved to answer the door, offer them a drink, you know, set that tone. And like you said, be excited. Oh, you're here for this property. Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. You know, it doesn't take a whole lot, but it definitely makes a difference.
It does. It's huge.
That was a good point. So we're talking, we most of that, you know, was about a floor call, but when you first sit down with the buyer, you have a real opportunity to train and then retrain. So the first couple times you actually meet with them or show them property, you in your mind should have, you know, you should have an attentional approach to what you're talking about, demonstrating how you're different and how you can bring value to them multiple times. You're not selling this once, you're selling this, because most buyers aren't going to buy something you know, the first day you meet them, or maybe even not the second or third time you show them. So you want to make sure that you're bringing value the whole time. And that is where, you know, that's where that give before you get, you know, that allows you to tell stories and to talk about how you've had better results on multiple offers, how you bring value to the way you communicate a buyer's offer strength, you know, how you insert emotion into your offer presentation so that you win different deals. I remember Patty had you know, we're in the day and age of a multiple offer deal right now. Patty had a great example that we shared years ago when we had multiple offers going on too, where she did a video of the buyers, and they were sitting down on a couch, and they were a family, and they were telling their story about how much they love this house, and they can't wait to grow their family, or, you know, I don't remember what they said, but it was really cool, and it made a difference to the sellers of who was buying their house. Sometimes sellers care. So letters that go with the offer, and videos that go with the offer, and just telling a buyer that you're working with how you've done that creates loyalty. And I think we have to do that these days because it's competitive, and buyers are really willing to dump you if you're the same as every other agent and you're a commodity. They'll go to the next one as fast as they can. So I think we have to be on top of our game with how we do that. Anything else about that? So the same as, when you get down to talking to the buyer about the offer they're going to make, I think the same as a seller, when you're talking to a seller about listings, we've got hot buttons that are going to happen to them during their process. The best agents communicate what to expect way ahead of time, what to expect when a property doesn't appraise, what to inspect with respect to an inspection process. You know, if the buyer doesn't know about it, maybe they're going to freak out on everything that's found and expect that the seller's going to fix everything. What to expect with regards to today's financing and what they're going to go through, and how, you know, if they don't know how fast they have to respond, they could put themselves in jeopardy with timeframes or with dealing with some out-of-town lenders. The very best agents see that stuff coming ahead of time, and they take the time to address those hot buttons that cause deals to fall apart way ahead of it. Can anybody speak to that? Jane, can I call you out if you're still on here? Can you talk about maybe anything that you might say to a buyer that you're working with about those things?
Repeat the question one more time. I apologize. I feel like I'm on the stand right now.
I did. I just turned the like the light on in your face and tried to call you out. I was talking about how you can predict what hot buttons or what things will cause buyers to panic or fall apart, like, and how you can do a good job of prefacing some of that stuff, like appraisal issues or inspections or financing. And you can communicate it to them early during the process so that you can avoid some of those situations. And it's okay if you don't have anything too. I just want to bring it out.
What's next? I think if you're just always prepared to tell them what's next, or if you set the stage with them, I mean, we definitely have a hot price range right now on properties, and if your buyer's not willing to jump in quickly and high, you know, in that 300 to say 600, even 650 price range, they're probably not going to have a house. So they need to be highly motivated buyers in this market, depending on their price point. So I don't know, I guess just setting the stage and letting them know that they're vulnerable to missing out. And I don't know how many times you want to get disappointed, but some of these buyers have missed out on 2 and 3 houses, and you hate to see them go through that kind of emotion. But if you set it up early, maybe you won't have those disappointments.
Well, I've got you thinking about talking about buyers. When you do write an offer and you have that offer ready to present, what's your personal process? Do you call that agent? How do you communicate the offer?
I try to let the agent know as soon as they show interest that they would be interested enough in the house to write an offer. I try to let that agent know, because I want to know what's going on. I want to know if there's going to be multiple offers coming in, or, you know, or things. Can we be a little more relaxed about this? You know, what's the urgency? So I try to get it done as quick as possible. I know some people don't agree with that, but
well, I think that's one of the reasons why we lost one. You know, we had that happen in here, inside of our team, and it was the folks wrote a very good offer, but you know, we did not know that there was multiple offers taking place, and they weren't given a chance to go to highest and best. This was an agent outside the company, and these particular people would have went higher, and we didn't know it. And so the surprise that we got back was, nope, sorry, we had multiple offers, you're out.
Well, and I think there are some agents that will manipulate to their interest over the client's interest. So yeah, you take a little bit of a risk when you do that, but I think more often than not, we get to deal with agents that are not unscrupulous or self-serving.
Right.
So I take my chances, you know.
I think it's important.
Go ahead. I'm done.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. Sheesh, I got nothing to say.
No, I was just going to say, you know, and once you know you're in a multiple offer situation, or they think you're going to be, is to just literally ask them, how do you handle multiple offer situations? What's your process, that other agent? Because I got accustomed to the way RE/MAX handles. I thought everybody handled it that way, and that's not the case. I found that out. Some of them, you know, will not call you back and let you know we're in a multiple offer situation. You need to, if you want to adjust your offer. So I think it's important to have that conversation. How are we going to move forward? Do I need to immediately present my best and final? Should I present something now and then you'll come back later? What am I doing here? And at least then you know the rules.
Yeah, very good point.
Yeah.
Ask lots of questions.
Hmm.
For sure. Here's something that can make a big difference for all of us: asking for testimonials. We all know the value of reviews and testimonials in whatever fashion we want. You know, like it or not, reviews and testimonials on a Zillow are literally causing people to go to particular agents. Maybe it's justified, maybe it's not. But if we have no reviews or testimonials, that's going to be that is not going to be to our advantage. So find a way that you're comfortable with communicating and asking for that review and testimonial when you're going to get it. This sounds crazy, but if you're open and willing to do it, you can do that semi-annually or annually to your whole database and pick up 2 or 3 of them as well. It's best during the honeymoon, during the courtship, and it's best to get it during, that great time at closing, but you can also get it after the fact. You continue to send people information. People value that stuff. They'll give you a referral later. Don't ever hesitate to do that, because we are seeing that become more and more the reason why people choose someone. And I don't want that to go. I don't want us to not continue to think about the power of reviews and testimonials. It fits right into this effective communication. So it's what we need to do. You want to keep going?
Yep.
Kaylin, we've got a couple more things that we want to talk about. In general, industry relationships, and this is all over. So I don't know how often you all get calls, but I get calls from appraisers pretty commonly, and I go outside of my way to help them. No matter how I feel about that deal that one came in under value, if I have a chance to talk to them, if I have a chance to prep a property for them, I'm going to make their job as easy as possible, and I'm going to volunteer as much information as I can, because it will change your next deal. It can make a difference. And they do have some liberties. So be cognizant of that, and, I would try to help them every chance I can. Lenders actually refer buyers. So, when you're speaking to lenders, know that they can be a source of business as well. So not just be nice, be their resource. Volunteer information for them. If you want to be looked at as a professional in your industry, you need your clients to think of you as a professional in your industry. You need all of our vendors that we work with to think of us as a professional in our industry. And some of that comes from being the one that always looks at taking it a little step further. So when you're having a conversation about referring a client to a lender, and you have maybe you have some market trends or some stats or just some information, if you volunteer that to them, they are going to hold you in a different spot. Inspectors the same way. If we can be a resource and a help to them, it's going to make our businesses easier. So
I'm glad that you brought that up. I just talked to 2 agents the other day, even outside of our company, just in our area, that were complaining about appraisals and working with appraisers and trying to get creative with coming up with things to help them, which in turn helped them with the property. So I'm so glad you brought that up. It's just funny how it goes around.
it does go around.
Lori, what you got?
I just wanted to kind of piggyback what Jeff was just saying. I believe it is always important to be there, always say yes, always be available to what it is that they need. It is important. But what I am finding, and I'm sure everyone else is as well, everyone in this industry is so busy right now. There are lines for everything. But what I am finding, thank goodness, is the relationships that we have cultivated over the years with our vendors, lenders, inspectors, title companies. Again, I've had to call in a favor or two, or I go to the top of the list, and it's because we have had those relationships over the years with inspectors. I always make the phone call before we close. I always make sure people get paid. I will check and I will double check to make sure everybody who has worked this transaction gets paid. And they remember that just establishes that relationship. So in these times, I've noticed that it's extremely important.
It means so much, Lori. It really does.
Yeah, I had
big
an
differences.
agent do cookies and a thank you card with their CRM the other day to an appraiser, and that worked out for him too.
Oh yeah, that's smart.
Right.
You know, we don't thank appraisers. We don't thank lenders often, or inspectors. I mean, that's a really good idea. That would be a way to change your level of the way they look at you for sure, very easily. I mean, that's a great idea. Local business networks are really good to create a circle. They don't even, I mean, they can know, you can do it in a manner that group knows that they are in your business network, or you can do it without them knowing. We all have our own group, and there is plenty to go around. Don't think you can't develop your own referral resource from your own group of vendors and associates that you work with. And then just, communicate with them like you would anybody else. All the other agents that send you referrals, first of all, the agents that send you referrals, we need to keep those folks in a list and keep communicating with them right now to make sure they know how easy that free money is to get. All they got to do is send you someone, and you will make it happen for them, and you want to send them a check. I didn't even put that on here, but that is so important for us to do right now. If we're busy here, they're busy there. And people there are talking about coming here because we are we have gotten some serious free publicity. I don't know if it's all good, but any publicity is good publicity. So, agents in St. Louis, the people they're talking with are talking about Lake of the Ozarks. Kansas City, same deal. There are people that they know that are coming here right now. So if we can leverage that relationship, find a way to communicate with those people, I think that's a great way to generate business for yourselves right now.
Also to support local businesses. I mean, it is that time to kind of support local businesses trying to get back on their feet, especially going through everything we just went through, and it's that time. So use that as an opportunity to be like, hey, I'm just sending someone to your restaurant, but think of me when it comes to real estate. I mean, just anything.
Right. Local agents, the people that we work with, often, I don't know how many times during a month I'll talk to our own agents about a deal, and the other agent on the other end they're at the last deal of their contingency, the last day of their contingency, or they missed it by a day. What do I do? Well, how would you like to be treated in that situation? And I do understand technicalities, but how often, how's that work out when you say, hey, you missed your dates, we're over, you're out. So, if we ever have the opportunity, we should take the high road. We should volunteer information. If we're dealing with a new agent, we should help them write a contract. It will make it easier on our client. It's going to make it easier on them. They're going to remember you for it. You're going to stand out as a professional, help them with deadlines. People don't know what you know. You guys you're the top of the, you're the top of the heap. So utilize that knowledge that you have to help other people. Also, when you talk about communication, the fact that we're going over and above with our communication helps remove emotion. It helps keep things real clear. If we can do that, we can make our deals easier for our clients. So, I mean, the importance of communicating, thinking about how we communicate with even the other agents we're working in the deal. You know, that's part of serving your client, is helping that deal go smoothly. And if the initial, we talked about this in our negotiation class, if the initial negotiation on the contract is painful, well, you can just bet the rest of it's going to be really painful. So we can set ourselves up for a better deal the whole way through. You know, we talked about this part earlier. Phone calls first when anything's important. Please call the other agent. Let them know you've got a contract coming. If you get a contract that doesn't have a call attached to it and you just get it in your email, call that other agent before you present it. You know, do a little reverse. If the other agent just emailed it to you, that's okay. Don't take offense to that. Pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm so excited. I got your email with your contract. Before I presented it, I wanted to go over it with you in detail and make sure that I understand all parts of it before I go over it. Rather than just forwarding it on and telling the seller, I can't believe this, but this agent sent this to me via email. You know, we inadvertently communicate what we think or what that other agent does to our client, and it causes problems the whole way through. Sometimes if another agent is complaining about their client, we don't want to communicate that, you know, that stuff, because the less emotion we bring to our client, the better it is. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Can I piggyback on that, Jeff?
Yeah, please.
I was just listening to that, and I was thinking about one of my favorite sayings is, you know, how you carry on throughout your daily routine and stuff. That's a reflection of your character. So like when I talk to the agents here at the Camdenton office and I'm helping them with their paperwork or trying to get their phone calls back to them or whatever, especially when I used to a lot, you know, I would tell them kind of ahead of time, like, hey, you're getting ready to get in this deal, you know, take a step back, reflect on how you are going to treat this other agent. And, you know, like it goes both ways. So you're going to get treated the same way that you bring stuff to the table too. And I think that it's important to kind of think about how you're communicating and then getting that same communication back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, what happens is that festers. I mean, we had one that, yeah, and Vicki just said that makes perfect sense. So many agents want to vent their frustrations. That's exactly the deal. We had one that we barely held together, and it was because the two agents were communicating their own buyers and their own clients nasty talk. And they were taking that nasty talk right to the other agent who was taking that to the client. And pretty soon the two people that didn't know each other absolutely hated each other.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it just got to the point where it was almost past repair because any little thing was worth fighting about. And it was a bummer. We're almost out of time, but
You just got the last one left, Jeff.
one more thing is good agent to admin relationship will spread like wildfire in a great way for all of us. When we call to set up a showing, remember that the person on the other end of the phone is just trying to do their job. If we're in a hurry and you know, if first of all, if we're nice and take the time to compliment them, they're going to tell that agent, wow, this person was awesome. You know, I'm so excited to talk with her. She seems really nice. Whereas the opposite could happen too. When they hang up the phone, they could tell the agent that you're going to be writing the contract on, my gosh, that person's rude.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes when we get into busy times, we forget about how much of an ear all of the everyone in the real estate industry has. So it can matter. Our reputations can really impact everything. So Sure appreciate everybody coming in. Before we jump off, does anybody have any questions about any topics with respect to communication for anybody that's on here?
Or is anybody struggling with communication right now, like with something specific?
Or want to ask anything? Well, if you think about it like me, 10 minutes after we hang up, don't hesitate to call. And I know anybody on this class would help anybody else out. That's what I love about all of you. I hope this was a good class for everybody. We'll probably do this again, and it'll probably be 10 times better than it is today. But we sure appreciate everybody's time. We know how important that is, and we know how busy you are. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Hope you guys have a great weekend if we don't talk to you before.
Thank
Thank you. Great information. Thank you.